If someone asked me what the Megami Tensei series is known for, the first three things that I would say is 1. The range of demons that you are able to converse with and recruit ranging from hellish to cute. 2. The press turn combat system that has been expertly refined with each installment into the series. And 3. The array of bosses that stand in your way. But within these bosses, there lay a subset of them that is specifically designed to not only challenge you, but to actually test your understanding of the game's system. I like to call them Gatekeeper bosses. While these bosses may not take the position for most people's favorite bosses, what they stand to do and the way that they recontextualize a new player's experience leave them memorable and give them this legendary status that has kept discussions about them alive till this day amongst fans. If you join any online discussion about this series, there will be people still asking tips about bosses like the Minotaur, the Hydra, and especially the famous skeleton that has given SMT3 its reputation, Matador. Matador is the second major boss that you will fight, and the first of the fiends. He is placed at the point where the player probably has gathered a good number of demons and, well, have access to the Cathedral of Shadows, along with other good shops. Matador is unique for an early game boss, because he is the first boss that you will face that is designed to really test your understanding of the game mechanics and the combat system. He also acts as a baseline of how your future encounters with other bosses will be. No matter what boss you face at this point onwards, your experience dealing with them will be a variation of your experience with this guy.
Now, let the battle begin!
As such, he is given moves such as Mazan, a multi-target wind move that hits like a truck, and the Lucia, a multi-targeting physical move, which itself is not too bad as long as he doesn't use focus, a move that buffs his attack by 2.5 times. A move so broken that even you as a player won't even have access to it until like mid to late game. If he uses both focus and Andalusia, or even double Andalusia after he lowered your defense in a previous turn, well, he has a very high chance to wipe your party, but that's still not the scariest thing he can pull. Let me introduce you to Red Capote. All it does is that it simply maxes out his agility score, which, if you know anything about this game series, you know that it will return in you not being able to hit anything. And he will proceed to slap you back into the main menu. So, how do you beat him? Well, you have to understand and utilize all the mechanics the game has taught you thus far to change and adapt your ragtag group of demons to perfectly counter Matador. First things first, you can go into this shop and buy the Hifumi Magatama, which you can ingest to change your affinities. In this case, Hifumi will grant you nullification against wind attacks. Now that you have your Demi-Fiend protected, we can now focus on to the demons in the sewer area leading up to the fight. If you get into random encounter, one of the demons that you will see is a Nozuchi. He is a very good demon to recruit because he drains force. You can also go back to Ginza and recruit a Jack Frost. The main reason you might want to do this is because he has a move called Dark Might, which guarantees a critical hit on normal attacks as long as it's new Kagetsuchi. You can use him as is, or more preferably, you can fuse him off for another demon. I would recommend an Ame no Uzume. And the main thing that you want to bring to this fight is a demon with Sukugaja or Sukunda. I personally prefer and recommend Sukugaja because if you use Sukunda to bring Matador's agility down to his base level, he will just buff it up again and you need to worry about debuffing him. But if you boost your agility to his level, he can't really do anything about it, and you can focus on attacking and or healing. So if you manage to take things that way, you will see yourself emerging victorious. The main lesson of Matador is that buffs and debuffs are not just salad dressing, but are actually very useful tools that you're gonna have to manage and work into when building a party. But this video isn't just gonna be me talking about various bosses in the series like most of my other videos, except we are going to do something different today and take a more focused look on one of them. The one that I think is implemented the best out of all of them, and break down what makes him so good. Devil Survivor is a game that was created by a subset of Atlus known as Careersoft, who they recently acquired at the time. Careersoft is known for their strategy RPG series such as Langrisser and Growlancer, and when tasked to make a new game in the Megami Tensei series, instead of making a straight-up copy of mainline SMT or another SRPG like their previous titles, they decided to combine their knowledge they had with making Langrisser and Growlancer and the resources that Atlus has provided them to instead create something new and different from the contemporaries of the genre, complete with a totally original premise, the best time management system that I've seen, and a unique take on the traditional grid-based strategy RPG. In January 19th, 2009, they gave us this. So, the way that the basic combat works in Devil Survivor is that, like many SRPGs, they have a tile-based map system where you can place up to 4 units of your choosing. A unit can move around a set number of tile based on their agility stat, and you can engage in battle with another enemy unit that is on the adjacent side of the tile that you are on. But what makes this game unique is that every unit that you see is actually a party of 3, with a leader and 2 demon party members on the side. And when you choose to engage in battle, you are thrusted into a turn-based battle with said party. The turn-based combat is a modified version of the press turn system, which is condensed to fit the pace of the game more. Like you would expect, the amount of turns you can have depends on the number of members in your party. And like press turn, you can get extra turns by hitting an enemy's weakness or making them hit your resistance. And also like normal press turn, this also applies to your enemy's party. But there is a limiting factor, which is that you cannot pass your turn, and based on your stats, you can start out with an extra attack as soon as you enter the battle. And you can also lose your extra turn if you hit an enemy with an element that they resist. Now that you understand that, let's move on to Beldr appears in Day 3 of the game, at the near end of an already hard mission where you need to protect a bunch of civilians and Midori. So after you accomplish that, you get a small amount of time for a breather, and when you think you are safe, boom, he just beamed down onto Earth along with more demons for you to deal with. And he also pulls out this move which simultaneously attacks every one of your unit no matter the distance. Oh, okay. That's fine. You just go up to him, surround him with all your party members, and, take turns beating up like you did the previous one. Well, about that, there is a slight problem. Beldr in this game, like his real life lore, is immune to all forms of damage. Yeah. So, you have no choice but to run away. This is where the other side of the game comes into center stage. The time management side, where you are given various tasks that you can choose to do each day, each of them increasing the clock by 30 minutes. And another plot point and game mechanic in Devil Survivor is that at the start of each day, you get a message that predicts the future of what is going to happen in the day. And according to the message that you receive from the start of the day, you know that 1800 will be your deadline. So it is your task to manage these various encounters and find out a way to kill Beldr to save your own life and lives of many others, while also balancing your interactions with other side characters, advancing their characters' quests and keeping them alive, because in this game, you need them alive to get their endings, and they can die easily if you miss out on some of their character quests. I would go more into the time management of Devil Survivor, but it would make this video an hour long, and I think it deserves a video on its own, so let's put that in the back burner. Back to the main topic. So this is where you learn that Beldr's only one weakness is the Devil's Fuge, or the mistletoe. Now that you have his weakness, you are ready to go into the encounter. Walk up to him and you go up ahead and use the Devil's Fuge. Another problem, it barely did any damage to him. I mean, it's just a vine, or in the game's case, it's a phone charm. You can't just destroy the demon and expect him to disintegrate. This is not Wizard of Oz. The first thing that you need to actually do in order to start dealing damage to Beldr is to get to him. If you take a look at the battlefield itself, you will see that he is on the far top left side of the map, the opposite of where you are starting from, the bottom right. And the map gives you three main ways that you can get to him. The middle, more direct path, which won't take you many turns, but it's more densely packed with demons, which respawn and leaves you open for more potential flanks from these two winding paths on the outside. Your second and third option of approaching him, which they are a lot safer, but the nature of it will lead you sacrificing more turns and resources just to fight your way through it and get to him. Also, just to make your piss your pants a little bit more, this guy has a move called Vampiric Mist, which drains 25% health and transfer the health to himself. Wonderful. This might seem a lot, this might seem unfair, this might be where you are tempted to just pull out the game cartridge and never touch it ever again. But this is because, like I said, you are not utilizing all of the mechanics that are presented to you and not taking advantage of the things that the game has given to you. And if you don't do that, well, your enemy will take advantage of them and beat you. A unique mechanic that Devil Survivor adds to differentiate itself from other SRPGs that I haven't mentioned are called racial skills. Like buffs and debuffs in mainline, they may just seem like little bonuses that you get, but they are another core pillar of game mechanic and balancing that is central to the way that the game is played, as what some of these skills do can arguably be considered overpowered. Like one of the starting abilities that you get early on in game, like literally on your second battle, can guarantee you crits with any physical attack. Yes, and you get this move as soon as your second battle. And another early game skill that you get can decrease your enemy's movement to 1 tile. So you can just imagine how overpowered they would be if you put them in other games of this nature, and how much of a balancing nightmare it can be. And yes, Devil Survivor has a little bit of a balancing issue, but it's fine. As such, you really need to factor in how some of these composition of racial skills will interact with each other when strategizing. Build a team with the best composition to counter the situation that you are facing, or your enemy will do that to you. And Beldr is a test of that. It's just like building a party of demons with the exact elemental affinities tailored to counter a boss in mainline SMT. But this is more in depth because you need to account for the layout of the map on top of the elemental affinities. But that's still not the best part. Another unique thing about this game is that it allows you to have multiple demons of the same type in your party. Yes, not race, type. And it gets even better. Racial skills stack on top of each other, which, if you think about it, it can result in some pretty overpowered combos. Other than the basic early game skills mentioned before, there is a skill that allows you to attack from 2 spaces away, but in exchange for you not getting any extra turns. There is another one which lets you teleport through obstacles, and there is even a skill that lets you swap your 2 units' positions. It's more useful than it sounds. There are so many racial skills in this game that The build and combinations that you can choose are just limited to your imagination. Hell, once you understand how they work, there's a build you can make in this game which allows you to attack an enemy, then move somewhere, and attack again, and move one more time. Okay, back to Beldr now. The first main problem that you have to deal with him is to find a way to out DPS his heal. This is where this demon comes in, Nalgiri. At this point in the game, and around the level that you are at, he is arguably the best demon to have in your party because he is of the Kishin race, which has the innate ability of Double Up. This ability lets your team have an additional chance to attack, effectively increasing your damage output by 2. And you can put another Nalgiri on top of him, which, if you put 1 to 1 together, some say that Beldr fails as a boss due to the Devil's Fuge mechanic locking out the player from actually being able to roleplay in a role-playing game. And what I mean by that is by introducing an alternative damaging source, not really affected by which stat you have invested throughout the whole game, be it strength for physical skills or magic for, well, magical skills. It makes the choice of investing into one build and one playstyle kinda obsolete for the player. And yes, I agree to a certain degree. I mean, I would also be pretty pissed off if a game, especially an RPG, made me feel that my choices don't matter. But does that make Beldr a bad boss? Well, no. I still think Beldr works despite all of that, simply due to the fact that in Devil Survivor, strategic depth and what playstyle you want to go with is tied more towards using different combinations of racial skills rather than what kind of damage you want to do, mostly because exploiting weaknesses is not as impactful as it is in mainline SMT. And this is why I think Beldr, while not being the greatest boss ever or the greatest boss even in the game, is still such an excellent Gatekeeper boss and an example of how you should test the player properly to see if they understand the game or not. He asks you if you understand the racial skills by taking away all the conventional damaging means and exploiting weaknesses that you are used to, which now forces you to engage and really learn the main game mechanic that the game is built around, and come up with a unique and creative strategy only using it. And only then you will get past his BS.